Teaching and fields in therapy are dominated by workplaces and programs that make men feel as outsiders before they've even begun. In part one, we saw that male representation in teaching and therapy careers is at historic lows. Now, let's get into why so many men will not even step into those careers and why orders like Newsom's still funnel them into the same hostile institutions that have been pushing them out for decades. I'll uncover the cultural hostility, the lack of male mentors, absence of institutional support, and the academic climate that treats male perspectives as a liability, so you can see why this shortage is not random. It's the system doing exactly what it's designed for. Hey, I'm Todd. I'm an author and a research psychologist who supports men, and I hope that my content earns your subscription. So let's take a look at part two, why men are absent. Moving on to part two, the Newsom order calls for recruiting more male teachers and therapists, but the reality is that it still funnels them through the same university programs and licensing systems that have been driving men away since the 1970s. It is hard for me to understand how an executive order changes the fact that most education and psychology departments are openly hostile to male perspectives and have no incentive to reform. Even if recruitment numbers do pick up as part of California's investigation, the path still runs through graduate programs that are dominated by a worldview that treats male experience as an afterthought and often as the problem to be corrected. The order talks about representation, but it does not address why men avoid these careers in the first place. The hostility in universities, the lack of male mentors, and no dedicated research for men's issues, and an absence of institutional support. Without reforming the culture of these colleges and universities, the entire issue is less about fixing the shortage and more about sending a few token men into a broken system to prove that the government is doing something, quote, doing something. From a rules of engagement perspective, that's walking into a space with no authority, either legitimate or perceived, and no insight to adjust the environment to fit men's strengths. For most of the past 40 years, men were taught to keep their masculine strengths in check while also increasingly adopting more feminine qualities. Year after year, academic programs began telling men to open up and embrace vulnerability as a way to completely redefine their maturity and mental health. But here's the problem. Many of the same institutions delivering that message are the ones in which men feel least welcome. As I discussed in part one, the teaching and mental health fields are overwhelmingly female, not just in numbers, but more importantly, in ideology and in policy. A young man considering one of those academic fields today will find very few male professors to mentor him. He'll find almost no funding for his research on men's mental or physical health. Having spent more than 10 years as a college and university student in the 1990s and 2000s, I can tell you firsthand that graduate coursework nearly always frames male-specific experiences as secondary at best and hostile at worst. That means committing 2 to 6 years to grad school alone and tens of thousands of dollars to a system that feels adversarial to men's identity and goals. Even if an eventual job pays well, men know that they'll be working in spaces in which their presence is met as hostility and pressure to conform to a therapeutic model that treats male ways of processing emotion as defective. Instead of supporting male progress, many institutions signal that men are to be tolerated, not that they belong and that they have value to offer. Meanwhile, broader public messaging is contradictory. Be open, they say, but only in the right way. Share your feelings, they say, but within the emotional framework that we approve of. I know I'm not telling you anything new when I reiterate that stoic men are told that they're emotionally unavailable. Yet those who adopt are often ridiculed as weak or unmasculine. And this poor alignment goes way beyond Gavin Newsom's weak attempt to help boys and men. It's a direct divergence from the masculine calibration that I write about in Rules of Engagement. The system demands that men communicate in ways which strip them of their natural leadership style, then criticizes them for being weak and indecisive when they try. 50 years later, that mismatch has led to a quiet but very decisive backlash that ended in men's intentional absence. And as you know, men aren't rejecting emotional growth, but rather rejecting the nightmare of pursuing or learning it inside institutions that neither understand nor respect how they operate. From a resource management standpoint, the smartest move for men, I think, is to stop pouring valuable time, money, and energy into systems that erode their authority and violate their boundaries of self-worth. Because when the gatekeepers to an industry are hostile to your presence, the answer is not to beg for re-entry or to help solve a country's half-century-old problem that the government actively built to redefine masculinity. So that's why so many men are steering clear of degrees and careers in mental health and teaching. And I cannot believe that California or anyone else needs an executive order to figure it out. But let me know what you think. Should we try to fix these systems, or should we focus on building something completely different? Because that's coming up in part 3. Please drop your thoughts below, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of the series, and I'll see you soon.